Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Well, I want to welcome you to a new series I'm starting, and this is actually episode one or the introduction. It's called "Follow the Money: The Rise and Fall of the Federal Government." You know, in the movie The Godfather, the opening line, one of the opening lines in it is an Italian immigrant. He's getting there, ready to talk to the Godfather, and his words are, I believe in America. And a lot of us do. Now, there's a lot going on right now in America that makes a lot of people crazy, a lot of people cranky, a lot of people are angry. And I thought, it might be time just to sit and talk about it for a little bit and try to figure out what's going on, why it's going on, the who, what, why, when, and where kind of thing. So now, as you can tell, I'm not a pretty face. I'm not a Gen Z or I'm not a millennial. Heck, I'm not even a Gen Xer. I'm a boomer. But what that means is that I was there and I came of age during the civil rights in the 60s. I saw what was called the women's lib movement in the 70s, the greed of the 80s, the weirdness of the 90s, and so on and so forth, the paranoia of the 2000s. But all in all, now in 2025, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like what's happening now. And so I decided to do this show. But what is this show really all about? Well, it's about what's going on. What's going on right now in America, taking a look at what is taking place in Washington, what it really means to you and me. Now, this is an introductory, and I'm going to try to do these shows live on every Tuesday night. Why Tuesday? Well, that's because, most people go to church, or a lot of people go to church on Wednesday. Monday, everybody's still cranky. Thursday, people are getting ready for the weekend. Friday is the weekend. So Tuesday, 9 o'clock on Texas time, I'm going to try to stream these live here on YouTube. Okay, so that's really what this show is all about. But why this show? Well, like I said, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot, and I see a lot of people on social media who are just incredibly angry about everything. I mean, they're just flat out cranky. And I've also seen a lot of lies, a lot of nonsense. And it's time we started talking about things just in a calm way, where we try to look at everything, not one side or the other, no headline living. That's everything we do now, is everything is by headlines and insults. And it just doesn't really work. Okay, so that's why this show. We're talking about what's really happening in Washington. Now, if you watch any of the news channels, there's one that they tell you everything that the right wants you to know. There's another one that tells you everything the left wants you to know. And they pretty much live and leave everything into headlines. Okay, and they know you're not going to want to read a whole lot of stuff. And they also know they have an agenda. Okay, they want to tell you something. They're trying to sell you something. That's really what they're trying to do. Okay, so we're going to look at what's really happening in Washington. And then we're going to talk about what agencies are being attacked. Now, they are being attacked. I'm sure you've all heard Department of Education, USAID, the state, all these agencies are being attacked. So we're going to look at each agency one at a time. Each episode is going to deal with a particular agency. And when we're doing that, we're going to ask, why are they being attacked? What's the attacks? What's the purpose? Okay, we're going to look at all that. And while we're doing that, we're also going to look at the agency's history. Everything that is there was done for a reason. Okay, every agency was originally established for a particular reason. So we're going to look at their history. Then we're going to look at what's going to happen if these agencies really do disappear. How's it going to affect folks? How's it going to affect you? How's it going to affect me? Because trust me, folks, everything that happens will have an impact on you and me. And then we're also going to look at, what do the politicians say? We're going to talk about what they're saying on the left and what they're saying on the right. Now, I was going to say what they're saying on the center, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of center left anymore, okay? So we're going to talk about the far right, the far left, and see if there's any kind of solution out of that. So how did we get here? How did we get into this mess? Well, basically, we're here because Congress does a really bad job of managing the country. Now, I say that not as a Republican or a Democrat, but as an independent historian who actually studies these types of situations. Now, what I mean when I say, or what do I mean when I say that Congress has done a bad job? Well, most of us have had at least some type of history course or civics course when we were in grade school, maybe high school. We learned there's three branches of government: executive, a president; legislative, Congress, that's House and Senate; and the judicial, those are the courts. Now, theoretically, and the way it was set up, the legislative passes the laws that are supposed to be for the common good. That's you and me and everybody we know. The executive is supposed to enforce those laws, and the courts are supposed to interpret the laws to make sure they're constitutional. That's how it's supposed to work, and for a long time it did, and it still sort of sometimes does. The problem is that for some reason Congress has decided it doesn't really want to be bothered with paying attention to the laws they pass. They just want to pass laws that their supporters want. Now, most of the time, they don't even bother to read the laws they pass. After all, their staff usually writes them. So what happens is that Congress creates some agency to deal with some issue that most members of Congress have no clue about what's happening. They don't know what's really going on. And more importantly, they don't really care. They then turn over the running of the agency and enforcement of their rules to civil servants who try to do what Congress wants them to do. There is rarely any clear guidance. So these folks in the agencies try to figure out what they're supposed to do. This creates confusion, chaos, and conflict. Now, usually that wouldn't be much of a problem, but since Congress has done a really poor job of coming up with what these agencies are supposed to do and don't really give them any kind of guidance, many people think things have gotten out of hand. Maybe they have. Quite honestly, in a lot of cases, they probably have gotten out of hand. And as a result, there's a lot of anger and frustration with what's going on. And since now those who resent the agencies doing what they consider to be Congress's job are in power, they want to dismantle the agencies and essentially start over, or in some cases, just stop everything completely. Well, we're seeing that play out in the daily news headlines. Thousands of people being fired, laid off, doors being locked, and so on, conflicting arguments, Congress sitting on their thumbs not doing anything, okay? So it's a mess. And that brings me to this series of videos. I'm going to talk about each of the agencies that are being targeted and try to figure out the questions I asked earlier. Why were they first created? Why are they being targeted? What will it mean to you and I? Now, if you want to comment, please do. However, and this is non-negotiable, your comments must be civil, no name calling, and above all, must make sense. The next episode, I hope it's going to be a live stream. I'm going to try. It'll be at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, February 25th, and I'll discuss one of the real hot-button agencies, the Department of Education. Until then, take a deep breath, try to relax, and peace. I'm Hank. I'll see you all later.